Welcome to Messy Minded, a podcast for curious weirdos who enjoy true stories with the odd side quest. Not a lot of side quests today because I've got another messy morsel to share. The idea for this delicious little nugget came to me while stomping around the Smoky Mountains during my trip to Dollywood last spring. The story was dropped on us like honeyed gossip from our Jeep tour guide, and I was like Mean Girls level excited to look it up more. And it did not disappoint. Behind all the taffy shops, the pancake houses, the moonshine tastings, and the 1960s retro-styled 400-foot-high Space Needle lies a story about ego, paperwork, and one man's spectacular inability to read a room. Please enjoy. This is a Stranger in the Smokies episode. Imagine mist curling through trees like the mountains are whispering secrets. The air smells like wet bark and barbecue smoke, and every road sign seems to promise either saltwater taffy or Jesus. Nice that they give options. Sometimes I don't know what I'll need that day. This peaceful little pocket of Tennessee was called White Oak Flats. The settlers were farmers, quiet, cooperative, and content to keep it that way. They'd built churches, mills, and cabins beneath the mountain's fog, living in that rhythm of small-town togetherness where everyone knows who's feuding with whom, but mostly everyone minded their own business. The folks in White Oak Flats weren't fancy. They were the kind of people who could fix a plow with wire, quote scripture in a fistfight, and settle most disputes over cornbread and coffee. Then, in the 1850s, a man named Radford Gatlin arrived from North Carolina. He was not exactly a team player. He was one of those men who carried himself like every conversation was a sermon and he was the only one holding a microphone. The kind of person who could turn a quilting bee into a courtroom drama. He opened a general store, which was a good thing at first. The locals needed one. But it didn't take long for his opinions to arrive along with his goods. He argued about everything. Trade prices, church business, politics, the post office, especially the post office. He soon started feuding with just about everyone, especially the influential Ogle family, who'd helped settle the area in the first place. He'd throw around his opinions with the subtlety of a turkey in church. He even got himself kicked out of the local Baptist church, which in a town that size was basically the social version of exile. And just when people thought he couldn't make things worse, he did. Gatlin was a proud Confederate sympathizer in a community that largely supported the Union. So, on top of being insufferable, he was now dangerously unpopular. Arguments turned to threats. His barn was burned, his livestock killed, and at this point, most people would take the hint, right? Not Radford. Radford looked at his burning barn and his dead animals and thought, ah yes, time to escalate. So, somehow he kept picking fights. Even his wife Martha is said to have been long-suffering, trying to smooth over things while Radford picked yet another fight over whose cow wandered onto whose pasture. I can't imagine being married to a guy like this. How embarrassing. I mean, this was the 1850s, a time when mysterious stomach trouble often meant your wife was slowly poisoning you with Wild West pharmaceuticals. I'm not saying Martha did that, just that if she had, I think every woman in White Oak Flats would have understood. So by the time 1856 rolled around, White Oak Flats was already established. But the paperwork, the official federal name, still hadn't been filed. How's that for foreshadowing? The community planned to register it soon, obviously under the name they'd always used, and that's when Radford saw his opportunity. He went behind their backs, filed the postal application first, and listed himself as postmaster. Then in a final act of breathtaking ego, he registered the town under a brand new name, Gatlinburg. He's like, thanks for letting me ruin your potluck, bro. Now I'll be taking that casserole home and naming it after me. He just slipped it in there like no one would notice. It's like the 1850s equivalent of stealing someone's Wi-Fi and renaming it, thanks for nothing, sucker. So, of course, the locals were furious. Imagine watching a man you can't stand get his name immortalized on every letter, every map, every sign. The feud boiled over. By the end of the decade, Gatlin's property had been torched, his reputation ruined, and his welcome thoroughly revoked. And here's where the trail goes cold. Did he slink off into the Carolina hills in humiliation? Was he chased out under cover of darkness by the very neighbors he'd alienated? Or did something darker happen? One of those we don't talk about at mountain endings. Some Appalachian justice, perhaps? History doesn't say. He simply disappears. And then, nothing. No body, no farewell sermon, not even a gossipy letter. He just vanished into the folds of the mountain, leaving his name behind, like the stubborn stain on the map that it was. But that name did stick. White Oak Flats became Gatlinburg, forever branded by the man they couldn't stand. That's some unfortunate legacy for you. Of course, history hears the loudmouths. They're the ones shouting over everyone else. So next time you're walking through Gatlinburg's candy-colored chaos, surrounded by pancake houses and moonshine samples, remember, the town's namesake was the guy everyone wanted gone. But even after they got their way, they couldn't quite erase him. Hey guys, thanks for joining me with this messy morsel, a tiny tale about ego, paperwork, and how even the most unlikely people sometimes win a crown, if only on a technicality. Keep your pen handy, your neighbors happy, and your name off other people's mountains. Till next time.